Hey everyone, David here, and welcome to a new episode of Essential Marketing, where our mission is to provide helpful tips and tricks to anybody who's interested in marketing. And today, I'm super happy to be able to have with us Anil Batra, who's a good friend, long-term colleague that is an expert in the area of analytics, which is our topic today. And more specifically, the topic is around the changes that Google Analytics has announced that they are making. And so we know that a lot of people that are tuned in here are marketing directors or even business owners. And so while the analytics specialists amongst you, they're probably already familiar with this, they've already taken the necessary precautions. We want you as a business owner, as a marketing director, to be familiar with this topic because it is that important. And so maybe, Anil, let's dive in directly with that. With that question around, like, why does this matter for a business owner? Why does this matter for a marketing director?
First of all, thank you, David, for having me on the show here. So yes, this is a hot topic these days. Google Analytics, as you know, is dead, right? It's going away. It's Google has announced that it's sunsetting the old current version, which is known as Universal Analytics. If you haven't created a new Google Analytics property or profile, you are likely using this existing version. If you have gone through and started to create Google Analytics then account, now the new version is Google Analytics 4. So this is an important topic because next year, July 1st, is when Google Analytics old version will stop collecting the data. So it's super important for all the business owners, anybody who is using Google Analytics, to go and switch over to Google Analytics 4. You can run that in parallel right now so that you can start to collect the data, because you don't want to be surprised when July 1st rolls in 2023 that your Google Analytics is no longer working. And analytics, as you know, if it's not important at this point, you haven't paid attention to it, you should pay attention to it, because that's where a lot of value, that's where you will find what your customers are telling you without actually telling you. They are voting by their clicks. They are looking through your site, whether you're a small business owner, whether even if you're a blog owner, you know what kind of content people like by looking at this data so that you can focus on those things. And if there are things that are critical to your business, it'll help you understand which pieces people are not looking at, even if it's critical. How do you surface them in front of your customers? So it's super critical at this point for people to pay attention to what's happening with analytics and Google Analytics.
Exactly. And I think one of the reasons why we decided that we're going to have one of our episodes focused on this change is especially for some of those business owners or marketing directors where you're not that deep into all of the happenings around data and all those types of things, that you are aware of this because, correct me if I'm wrong, Anil, but there is also a risk that if you don't make the change, that you might not even have access to that data then come after July 1st of next year. Is that right? Or
so you'll still have data. Data will still be collected till July 1st or June 30th, whatever that cutoff date is.
Yeah.
Next year, you will have access to the old data through December 31st.
Okay.
So snapshot of that data that existed will still be available for you till December 31st.
Gotcha.
But after December 31st, you'll lose access to it.
Gotcha.
So right now, if you care about annual changes, like year over year changes in your business, you want to see those, and now is the time to start collecting that data and figuring out which data you need from old or Universal Analytics, also known as GA3. It's not official term, but people are calling it GA3.
Gotcha.
And pull the data, relevant data, so that you can store it in Google Sheets, databases like BigQuery, etc., wherever you want.
Gotcha.
Because you cannot port that data. So one of the things that's happening is people are thinking this is an upgrade. It's not an upgrade. Google has called it an upgrade. It's not an upgrade. It's actually a complete switch over to a new tool. So you lose your entire history.
Gotcha. And then the reason why this is so important is this is the typical kind of data that if you're hiring an agency, if you have a marketing team, or in the future, if you might be growing and you're going to be establishing a marketing team, one of the very first questions they're likely going to ask you as the business owner or as your marketing director is, I need access to your analytics, to your Google Analytics.
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
And that's why it's so important for the business owners out there to make the necessary precautions right now to ensure that you have that historical data and that you're going to have the data going forward. So, Anil, you spoke a little bit about the practical things that people can do to make sure that they're not losing the historical data. So one, I think you said, well, you can export some of the data into sheets and that type of thing. Do you have or you said, perhaps putting it into BigQuery. Is there, for let's say a small business owner, what's probably the easiest for them to be able to export some of that historical data that and not lose it?
Yeah, for small businesses, the easiest is to actually download it as an Excel sheet or
Okay.
CSV file and put it in Google Sheets. That's the best option, I would say, for small businesses.
Okay.
Because once you start to think about putting it in databases, BigQuery, then there are several elements. One, you have to figure out there is no native connector from Google Analytics or Universal Analytics to BigQuery. Google Analytics 4, the new version, has a direct integration into BigQuery. The old one doesn't. So
Gotcha.
you'll have to either get a third party or have somebody else write that tool. We're actually working on some tool for some, it's not there yet. But Google also, and well, unofficial word from Google is that they might release a tool to allow you to do that. It's not there yet. So at this point, small businesses just copy and paste or just download the CSV file for the data that you need and leave it there. BigQuery, you'll have to figure these integrations out. Then there is a cost element because it's not entirely free. There is a free tier, but it's not entirely free. So if you do not know what you're doing, you might end up paying a lot of money. However, I doubt that's going to happen for very, very small businesses, but it can happen.
Gotcha. Okay, and then the other practical tip here is, for people to make that change as soon as possible from GA3 or Universal Google Analytics to GA4. Now, could a person be running both at the same time, or would that even make sense?
Yes, it actually does make sense. So what I'm recommending is run them in parallel. One, you're already using Universal Analytics. You're making business decisions, hopefully from that, right? You have historical data. So keep using it while you get up to speed on Google Analytics 4, because it's a different, it's the different data model that's there, the reporting, the interface, everything is very different. It's going to take time for you to get used to Google Analytics 4. So run those in parallel. There is no clash. You can run both of them in parallel and learn GA4. So you have 1 year to actually learn and fix anything that you want. Once you get comfortable, get rid of Universal Analytics.
Yeah. And we will put the contact information from Anil here in the comment section from this video. So if any of this sounds like you don't know where to go with it, you don't know who you could have to help implement these things, I'm sure that either Anil, his team, would be able to do so, or he would be able to point you in the right direction to get all these things implemented and updated for your website. But most important today is we wanted to raise awareness that this is an issue. Now is the time to take action. So Anil, the last question is that I am also very interested in is, why is Google even making this change? I think, like you noted, it seems like Google is kind of downplaying the significance of this change, of calling it an upgrade, where, like you just said, it's not really an upgrade. They're completely, redoing the entire engine and of how they're, creating, data and insights and that kind of thing. But so why this big change?
Yeah, so it is, in a sense, like when we think about upgrades, it's basically taking existing and then adding to it so our history never gets lost, right? And in that sense, it's not an upgrade because it's a complete switch to another tool. Now, the changes that Google is making are actually in the positive direction. I like the new tool, even though there is a lot of conversation that I hear in the market, like people don't like this new tool, because anytime, as we humans, anytime there is a change, we resist change. It's entirely new thing for our brain to comprehend and work with. That Google is making these changes because when Google Analytics started, it was all about websites. You have page views, you have actions that people take on the websites, etc. Right?
Mhm.
It was very centered around websites. Now It's more like there are several devices. You have your apps. You look at the app, then you go to the website. You might look at your tablet or even like TV and offline stores, etc. All of these things are connected. So the new data model allows that flexibility. Everything is an event. Every action, every interaction, every transaction is an event in this new model. And so I like the way it is actually structured. It's much easier to understand once you understand it.
Got it.
An older model.
Gotcha.
And it works for apps. You can do, so the changes they are making are also, for apps, you can do cross device journey. So you can look at a user who's going on an app and then goes to your website. You can connect those. Also, it allows, the new version now allows you to quickly delete the data based on local, regional, international laws. There are users are expecting now to send an email and say, delete my data. That GA4 makes it easier for you to do that. Also, it has machine learning built into it, or they're using machine learning, which allows you to fill the gaps. So as a marketer, I want to see users' journey. I want to understand what users are doing, even if they're asking for the data deletion. So machine learning fills that gap. It uses machine learning and then figures out, okay, here's a data piece that's missing, and this is likely the data piece, so it connects those things. So that's why Google is making these changes. And a lot more emphasis right now is happening on app analytics or event analysis. So that's the model. So if you look at these lines between product analytics, marketing analytics, web analytics, those lines are blurring. Every tool is playing in the same field now. So that's what GA4 is.
That's great. Well, that's encouraging to hear that that this change is actually going to be, there's going to be a benefit then to the marketing teams and analysts and strategists and all of that. So that's good news.
Yeah, I'm one of the few people who's excited about this change. I know the tool has some issues, limitations at this point, but again, if you look past those limitations, there is a ton that can be gained. I mean, one thing is, and maybe it doesn't impact small businesses as much, but direct integration of GA4 into BigQuery. That means you get every single hit that's happening, every single activity that's happening. You have it think about it in an Excel sheet, BigQuery database. You can port in third-party data, other data that you have. You can do all sorts of analysis on that data to really understand what each customer or customer segment wants or needs and how they're behaving. So that's all the things that are very, very encouraging. That's how I started my career. When we started in digital analytics, when I started this, we were putting the data in the database. We're back to where we started from.
Yeah. That is so funny. Well, that's awesome. So encouraging news there for everybody. GA4 looks very promising. And as you have heard, the main takeaway, I think, that we're hoping everybody's going to take is that make the changes now. Already be thinking about the historical data. Don't wait until December 31st of next year, but already be thinking about now of how you can ensure to have all that data stored in a place that it's not going to go away. And then also already be thinking about making that switch to GA4. Again, we're going to put Anil his contact information here in the comments for you guys to reach out to him if you'd like to have any help and support with that. Anil, thank you for joining us. And for everybody else, thanks for tuning in. If you liked it, give us a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and we'd like to see you next time. Take care and bye.